Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and welcome to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Alicia Watkins. I'm here with my lovely wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins. How you doing today, babe?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
Doing extremely well,
How,
extremely well.
how's everybody out there doing?
They're doing good. Everybody's coming in. As you come in, hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe button, and that's how you can see how many people are in. So we're
Okay.
only in the first. We haven't even hit 10 yet, but they're coming. They're coming. Yeah, even at 3 o'clock in the morning. This is the time we're recording live. They are coming in. It just takes time. So yeah, how many of you? Give me a yes or no in the chat. How many of you saw this really messy divorce situation with Dell Curry and Steph Curry's father and Steph's mother? How many of y'all saw that? It was a really ugly divorce. You and I saw it today. What do you think?
Yeah, you were telling me about it, and I was thinking, good grief, this is another marriage during the pandemic that didn't quite make it.
Yeah. And so,
Rest in peace to this marriage,
yeah, you've
and
talked
that's
about
unfortunate.
Aisha. You've talked
hmm
about Aisha, Steph's wife. You really like Aisha.
I love her. I love her cooking show. I love everything that she does. She's very positive. She's a wonderful, wonderful lady. Great
Mm,
mother. She just exemplifies all the things that's great about Black women. So I like her.
you think so, huh?
Hmm.
Okay.
I mean, it's not just her alone. It's a bunch of other people, but she's one of the good ones.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So let me know. Give me a yes or no. Did you guys see what was going on with Steph and Steph's parents? It's really getting kind of messy.
Ooh, they slinging mud. I don't think that's setting a good example. I mean, I'm certain that Steph and the whole family is probably very harmed by this. Probably feel really bad by this.
It's pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, it's kind of. I would have expected them to behave in a way that's a little more mature.
Yeah. I'm gonna read this to you. Let me know. Give me a yes in the chat if you can still hear me. I'm
Mhm.
switching screens. I'm gonna read some of this. This is the TMZ report, so we got to take that
Okay.
with a grain of salt. But they said Sonya Curry, Seth Curry's mom, says the estranged husband Dell Curry cheated on her with different women while married, and that she had no choice but to divorce the ex NBA star. So I guess in her mind, the fact that he cheated means she had no choice but to divorce him.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
But Dell's telling a different story, saying Sonya cheated during their relationship. TMZ Sports broke the news. 55-year-old Sonya filed for divorce, so she's 55 years old, on June 14th in North Carolina, citing Dell's marital misconduct. I guess that's the reason. Wow, huh? A woman married to an NBA player who's citing cheating as a reason for divorce. That's such a surprise. It just never happens. NBA players never cheat. Dell responded with a court filing of his own, accusing Sonya of, quote, acts of illicit sexual misconduct, end quote, prior to the separation, and then lying about the alleged incident. So he's saying you was a lying hoe.
Yeah. Look, are you saying that all NBA players are cheating on their wives?
I'm not
You really
saying
believe that?
I'm not saying all of them are. I'm just saying that if I met, I'm just telling you the truth. If I was a woman and I married an NBA player, I would not expect to have a traditional marriage. I just wouldn't.
I think. Okay, I don't know. I think that you should marry somebody who's trustworthy.
Yeah, but trustworthy and infidelity are not always connected in my
Yes, they are connected. So the
view.
thing is that
No,
if a,
because thousands of people have cheated in their relationships. Like it does. It like we, to me, I
Mhm.
think that we got to get rid of like the fairy tales sometimes.
Okay.
Like when Kobe got married at 19, and
Mhm.
he's like, "Oh, I want to pick one woman and be faithful to one woman." I said, "That's bullshit." You're 19 years old with a $10 million, $20 million contract, whatever he was making. I said, "There's no way Kobe's going to be faithful," and he wasn't.
Okay, so here's the thing. The thing is that I mean, if you're not going to be faithful, you have got to tell your wife or tell your husband that you cannot be monogamous. You
I
have
get
to
that.
be you have to be, and if you aren't, then you're untrustworthy.
I I do. Okay, so
So
let's.
that's the thing. It's the lying that's behind it. And it's if you're gonna marry somebody and you say, look, it's just gonna be me and you, that's a marriage. Once you start cheating, you're not married anymore.
I don't agree with that.
Okay, so marriage really is that not what marriage means to you?
No,
Please tell
seriously.
me, boys,
Let me.
what is
Well, let
marriage to you?
what marriage means to me is it's a commitment I made to be with you. Period. I love you from the waist up, not from the waist down. I don't. I'm not possessing. I'm not here to possess your. To me, there's too much lust in the world for me to evaluate you based on lust.
Okay, so
I know
mhm.
maybe that's why I waited. Well, maybe that's why maybe in my 20s I wouldn't have been comfortable getting married because I felt like it was all bullshit. But at 50, it's like you're able to at least have more discernment, more measure. And so
Really?
getting married around 49 was like a conscious choice. I just really think it's like silly. It's ridiculous. All these people get married and they expect you to take their marriage seriously when you're sitting here knowing that if they're black, 75% of them ain't gonna make it. So how am I gonna take some shit seriously when 75% of y'all ain't even gonna make it?
Why are they not going to make it then, boys?
I don't know. I mean,
That's my question to you, since you know for sure they're not going to make it. I think it's quite possible for NBA marriage to make it. I think it's quite possible for any black marriage or any whatever marriage to make it. It is always possible to make it. The thing is that you want to pick somebody who's trustworthy. And if you're picking somebody who is going to lie to you. So here's the thing. If in order for a person in a marriage to cheat, that means they have to lie. Okay. unless they're dating somebody who doesn't seem to care, unless they have an open marriage and they are just agreeing that this is how it's going to be. Other than that, you're going to have to be deceitful in some way. So if you're a deceitful person, it's not just cheating that you're deceitful with. You're deceitful. It's a trail of deceit. Typically, it's not like I'm going to be the stellar spouse and then, but I'm just going to be a person who cheats on you. So usually it's like cheating is just an extension of all the different ways where that person has been deceitful.
I totally get that.
That's what I see in my office, and that's what the research shows, and that's what the data shows, and
I get the
all of that,
research and I get the data
and
most
practical stuff.
I get the research and I get the data. Now I'm gonna just tell you, just keeping it 100. I know a lot of researchers who know the data, who've been through many divorces, right? Who can't keep a marriage or a relationship together for nothing, right? So that tells me clearly they don't know everything. Because if they knew
No, I
everything,
mean,
they well, seriously, no. I was gonna tell you, my where I came from, my core belief, which you don't like, but my parents had 47 years of marriage, which is a rare commodity, and they love each other very much. They're very committed to each other. And now white liberals say, "Oh, that's dysfunctional. Your dad was
wait,
toxic."
what was dysfunctional?
No. I'm saying like there was things that they had to forgive. My mother probably forgave some things from my father. My father forgave a lot of things from my mother. One thing I paid attention to growing up is I felt that, and don't judge my parents' marriage. Please don't do that because I don't want to do that today. um, is they were I saw them consistently frustrated with each other, but
Okay.
they also submitted to each other. They
Mm-hmm.
submitted to themselves. Sorry, they submitted to each other. They submitted to the family. They submitted to God, and I had a respect for that. Like their whole thing was like I would hear my dad say, your mama gets on my damn nerves, but I love the hell out of her anyway. And my mother would say, yeah, your daddy has made a lot of mistakes, but I love him anyway. I don't want to be with nobody else, right? I'm
Oh,
not. She I think that she felt like I don't want to be divorced and be out here and get cheated on by a stranger, right? Whatever, right? Now it might have been crazy. It might have been. I'm sure a lot of feminists. My mother would not fit into anybody's feminist lecture series. She wouldn't, but at the same time, I think that those women don't get hurt either. Those men don't get hurt. I think that we mischaracterize things. And I'd love to hear your perspective on it. Feel free to go
well, I
ahead.
mean, I think it's never an easy decision to decide to get divorced. And I'm certain if Steph Curry's mother is talking about how she's been probably disrespected, and it sounds like he was disrespected repeatedly, because so both of them have done things. And I honestly, I don't think, I'm not an advocate for staying in a relationship where you're being abused, just
Right.
honestly. And abuse is not just physical abuse, it's emotional abuse, it's psychological abuse, it's financial abuse, it's all those sexual abuse, like any sort of type of abuse. I'm not going to say that the marriage should be, should continue. I'm not going to sit here and say you should put up with that.
Yeah, and I hear
Hmm.
that, and I will say that marriage itself, for some, I know people who define abuse as any time you don't let them have what they want.
That's not what
No,
abuse means.
I get that, I get that. But when you say you should stay in a marriage that it has abuse, I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, I'm being abused." Well, how did he abuse you? Well, he didn't talk to me enough. Well, that's not abuse. Or he
Right.
or he lied to me twice. So the fuck what? People lie all the time. I'm not saying
Okay.
I don't get it. I'm just gonna tell you. I'll tell you
The
my
thing
point.
about lying is, I mean, that lying could be put in the category of emotional abuse, because you're putting your the person that you're supposed to love, the person who's your next of kin, they have to say so whether you're going to pull the plug or not. you know, you are treating that person with disrespect. You're treating you're degrading that person. You're letting that person know that they're not important to you because you're being flippant with them. You're not really concerned about how they feel, and you have no empathy for them.
Right.
Because if I have empathy for somebody, I'm not gonna hurt them. Like, why would you hurt them? And if I did hurt them, okay, here's the thing. Here's the thing with abuse. Um, if if one partner says or does something to another partner and it was hurtful to them, right? And you bring it to their attention, and they just like, so I don't care. I don't care that you were offended by that, and they're just kind of like flippant like that. That's really abusive.
Mm-hmm.
It's the total disregard of another person that destroys a marriage. Like, I don't think anyone should have to live in that type of environment. And I think the misconception is that, oh, I'm not happy or I'm not getting what I want, then I'm out of here. Well, no, that's not that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about emotional abuse, putting through somebody through something psychologically damaging to that person.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so
So
that's different from what you were saying, because I heard you when you talked about, oh, you talked about how your dad said, oh, she gets on my nerves but I love her anyway. That's not abuse.
it's
You know
not.
what I
Well,
mean?
you know what? No, but seriously though,
That's
seriously.
just saying
But
we're
what?
working through
Okay. So
stuff.
now I've heard your point of view, and
Okay.
I respect it. So
Mm-hmm.
let me share a perspective. I when I hear people say I will not tolerate disrespect, you have to always show that you value me. I see arrogance. I've seen that. I've seen many examples where that gets twisted into a type of arrogance to say, "Oh, I'm not going to tolerate that disrespect, that neck swinging, finger popping,
Well,
like,
no, that's
oh
not
no,
what I'm
you didn't. No, no, no.
saying.
But let me just
Mm-hmm.
tell you. Let me just tell you. And I can know as a man, I know as a man that when I chose to get married, I knew that my ego cannot be the first thing that I carry with me when I walk through the door.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people go into relationships with way too much ego, talking about, oh, no, you didn't disrespect me. Because do you know how many times as a man, just think about this. I mean, just in a blended family, as a stepdad or whatever, how many times you have to stand down when you want to just go off and say, "Oh, you will not disrespect me. Oh, I demand blah blah blah," or and you have to shut down. You can't listen to your friends who are like, "Oh, what she did? What? Oh, she can't do that to you. Oh, that's disrespectful. How you gonna let a woman do blah 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 blah? You simping. You letting the woman."
Okay.
No, no.
Okay.
But
So.
let me explain. Let me
Mm-hmm.
explain. Let me explain. So my point is to say I learned that the key to getting along with other people is understanding that the group is more important than the individual. And I don't really know if everybody gets that. I think that any woman or man who goes into a marriage thinking that you ain't never going to feel a little bit hurt, a little bit disrespected, or have to stand down and put your ego to the side is sorely mistaken. So all this talk about I will not tolerate disrespect. I'm not saying that that isn't true. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't tolerate disrespect from the white man. I don't tolerate disrespect from anybody. But there's some situations where I might feel a certain way, but I still have to be measured and thoughtful in terms of how I respond. In order to maintain the order of the group. Because I believe if you get married or you get in a relationship, the world will always your ego will always give you a reason to end that relationship.
Okay, so you're talking about ego, and I think what I'm talking about is just dignity of another person. It's dignity of another person.
Dignity and ego are very connected.
Yeah, I'm saying, here what I'm saying. Two people in a relationship, both of their feelings matter in that relationship.
Yeah,
Both of them
they do.
equally,
They
not
do.
one above the other. Both of their thoughts and their opinions, both equally matter, not one above the other. And you have to give respect to that. And if someone falls below that level where you just totally disregard somebody, you stepping all over their feelings and you don't care at all about what's going on, when you start being disrespectful, you are not working in behalf of the group. So what I'm saying is that I absolutely agree with you. Absolutely agree with you that the family core is way more important than one individual person. So I'm agreeing with you, boys. I'm saying that that is actually true. But I'm saying when you have one person in the group who's stepping all over everybody else,
Hmm.
something needs to be done. You need to address it.
Now I
And
do.
I'm saying
Now I
that,
do agree. Now
yeah.
let's say for example, I'm trying to talk and you get passionate. When you get passionate, you become very forceful in your communication. So let's say that I'm like, I'm not going to disrespect that. You dominating the group. You're trying to shut everybody down because you got something to say because you want to be a
Well, I'm
woman.
talking about as
But
long as you say it in a respectful way.
right,
I'm not saying
I get that,
you
but
don't matter.
I get that. But
Hmm.
what I'm really saying in general is I just really believe one of the things that we just forget is just the idea of what humility really looks like. Humility doesn't just mean that you're just kind of a humble person and and you won't tolerate disrespect, but you're relatively humble. No, I think humility means sometimes knowing flat out you were disrespected and knowing how to walk past that and realizing that the person that disrespected you, a person you love that you're
Hmm.
trying to get along with may not ever acknowledge that they disrespected you. They may never stop and say, I really disrespected you. I'm really sorry. Right? They might give you every excuse in the world to cut them off. But you might say, you know what? I forgive them for they know not what they do.
Yeah, so I'm concerned if that sort of dynamic ever plays out in a relationship because the person who's feeling that their feelings have been hurt in some way all the time, I'm
Hmm.
really concerned about built up level of resentment that you'll end up having in the relationship. That concerns me. I'm concerned as to why that one person doesn't have a voice
Well,
in that
maybe. Well, the thing
situation.
is that you don't have to have a voice all the time in every situation. Like
Mhm.
I have a voice. I have a strong voice. I say a lot of things I want to say. I do a lot of things I want to do. I'm the boss when I go places. When I go places, I walk in the room. The Red Sea parts. I snap my fingers. People do what I tell them to do. When I come home, that dynamic completely shifts. When I come home, I know, I don't get me wrong. I know that I'm respected and loved and all that. But when you're dealing with kids, you gonna have to let that check that ego at the door.
Oh
When
yeah.
you're dealing with black women, many of whom were raised by strong single mothers who are very, very direct, you have to check some of that shit at the door. You can't come because if I come in,
What do you
if
mean
I
when you
came
say check? Like how does check look like?
checking it means letting other people kind of do their thing, even if you don't like it. Even if you think, okay, she's getting a little too bossy right now, but you know what? I'm gonna let her have that because she needs that right now,
Yeah, but
right?
being bossy is not nice. Like that's not nice to do.
I do. Well, I'd agree it's not nice,
I mean, here's
but
the
believe
thing.
me,
Wait,
it
I
give y'all give.
don't get me wrong. I just want to say something.
Hmm.
I just want everybody to know that Boyce is the most sweetest person to live with. Like how you're talking now, like the you Boyce Watkins on here, it's so different. Like how we interact with each other. So I just want to make it
Hmm.
clear in case people think that you're just like coming in the house talking about Alicia, you better do this. Like you
No,
have
I don't. I
never
don't. I
done
don't. I
that. So
don't.
I
Right?
just want to
No,
make
no.
that
Well,
clear. We do not treat each other this
right,
way.
right, right. No, 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 no. I thought that point was the point I was making.
Okay, all
The
right.
point I'm making. The point I'm making. Pay attention now.
Yeah, I'm just
Is
making
that
sure.
when I go into a dynamic,
Hmm.
I'm always conscious of the trade-offs. Right? There's some dynamics where I don't give a shit. Where I will come in and say, "This is how it's going to be. I don't care what you think."
So you
But when it
CEO of
comes
your
to
company, but you're not
yes,
CEO,
when it
co-CEO.
comes to
Hmm.
my family's important. I want my daughters and my son, to be content. I want them to feel heard, and I have to be empathetic to other people's feelings and energy, right? And so, or when I'm dealing with even my team members that work for me,
Hmm.
I know that I can pull the boss card anytime I want, but that is the last card I pull. I'd rather pull other cards that are more cooperative and collaborative
You really
before we
do.
get to pulling the boss card, right? So my point is to say, I
Like,
see a lot of people pulling the boss card. I see a lot of people operating on what I think, what I would define. I'm not metaphysical. Like I don't know metaphysics like you, but I feel like it's low vibration frequencies when you get into, oh no, I'm not going to tolerate that disrespect, or you get into like, oh no, they no he he didn't look at that girl, or no she didn't do whatever, right? I
mhm.
kind of felt, and maybe I'm naive for this, but I kind of said the only way I can get married to a woman and stay married, I think for a long time, is if I love her from the waist up, and I'm not trying to walk in and think the number one objective of marriage is for me to own her vagina. Like I just don't, or to own just every part of like to, and then get all mad because she sees Idris Elba on TV and she thinks he's attractive, or just or the way you talk about Prince and you think Prince is this and this and that, even though I've
No, Prince is a great.
right.
What are you
I
talking
agree. I
about?
agree. Whatever. Right.
He's a
All the
great musical
all the black women
artist. What
love.
are you talking
But,
about?
let me explain. Let me explain. But I'm
Yeah.
just saying to you, like my goal was to get rid of things like jealousy and possessiveness, because I feel like that is one of those things that causes so many marriages to fail.
Yeah. So
Like I don't.
what do you mean by the thing the what do you mean by getting rid of jealousy? Because the thing is that jealousy is just an emotion just like anything else. So there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with any sort of feeling, any sort of emotion that comes up. I don't know if the goal is really to get rid of, more or less than the goal is to really just embrace it and try to explore it. I think that's usually what should happen, because the more you try to like ignore how you're really feeling, that's problematic too. So you don't want to mask how you feel.
I do agree.
Hmm.
I don't believe in the suppression of emotions, but I do
You
believe
should acknowledge
I
it.
and maybe this is something that I can do that a lot of people, maybe a lot of people can't. I have no idea.
Hmm.
But I'm a strategic empire builder in my life. Like I think about the big picture and everything. So I might have an emotion and I might process that emotion and acknowledge that emotion. But that doesn't mean that has to be the dominant emotion that shapes my actions in that moment. So I might be feeling pissed off. I might be feeling jealous. I might be feeling like whatever. But then there's a part of me that says, let's look at the big picture here and
Hmm.
let's figure out which emotion we should act on and which emotion is not going to be beneficial for what we're trying to do. So let's talk specifically about Steph Curry's parents, Dell and his wife. I don't know these people, right? So
Hmm.
we can't judge. I feel I grew up in a culture and I like that culture where you don't argue in front of the kids. I don't give a shit. Why are you mad? I'm just telling you straight up. You could go out here and do the most egregious, horrific shit in the world to me, and I would never ever bring it up in front of the children,
Hmm.
ever,
Hmm.
because it's not their business. I'm not try to disrupt and just screw their heads up by undermining their image of their mother. um, I just have to take that blow. And that to me,
Yeah.
that's manhood. Manhood, because I deal with that. I deal with that all the time. Being on social media, I have people make videos that about me that get 100,000 views, where they're literally saying the most ridiculous, most asinine, most ignorant shit ever that isn't even true. And what do I do? Most of the time, I don't respond because it's like I'm a man. I can absorb the blow. So my point is to say, and here's the reason why, and I'm saying, I'd love to hear your response on this. The reason is because, when you're trying to develop something that's stable, you have to be strong enough to maintain that stability, even when other people can't. So I don't think, I don't care why Dell and his wife are going back and forth and looking crazy. When two people are fighting, you both look like idiots. When people are watching you from a distance, you both look stupid. It doesn't matter who started it.
Yeah, and I think I'm gonna agree with just about all that you've said, because I think the sad part about it, what you said, is I do want, there's a caveat to not arguing in front of children, but I do believe that airing dirty laundry in the middle of a divorce like this is something that you shouldn't do
Mhm.
in front. I mean, it's not setting a good example for the children, even if they're adult children, because we have adult children. I don't know how many brothers and sisters Steph has, but I mean, just think they have grandchildren who's watching this. So
Mhm.
I do think that this sort of thing should be kept a little bit. It shouldn't be out in the public like this. Like he shouldn't have said that, and she shouldn't have said what she said and revealed all that information. I think that should have kept private. They should have gotten a divorce peacefully and been like unreconcilable differences and just let it go and then let the rumors fly or whatever. But I think this, what you're saying, they really should not have this sort of disagreement during a divorce out in the open like this. So that part I agree. Now, where I think there's a caveat to what you're saying is I think that if you have really mature and really smart couple, they're let they should strategically let in a way strategically let children see you have some sort of a disagreement, not on big things like cheating and stuff like that, but some sort of a disagreement, and let the children model for your children the best way to talk and to communicate and to relate to each other and solve problems. So let your children watch you solve a problem. I think that is helpful. Because
I
if you
get that.
walk around as if we are never ever ever going to have a disagreement in front of the children, no matter how small, then you're not it's a lost opportunity to model for the children. And number two, children can sense when there's tension going on in the house. So children may not know what's going on, but children can sense if their parents are arguing or fighting and they're just not bringing it up or just not talking about it. And so children already are very keen and they pick up really quickly when there's something tense going on in the house. So you're not hiding. You think you're hiding, but you're really
You
not.
know what's funny? Honestly,
Hmm.
I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't a keen kid because I didn't pick up on any of that shit in our house. I literally, my mother and father told me about stuff that happened 20
It
years
was
ago.
unconscious.
Right. Well, maybe it was, but I'm about to tell you, I believe a lot of kids are self-absorbed. Like you look at our 14-year-old, she's in the mirror and trying to figure out how she's gonna look cute for school today,
It's true.
talking to her friends on the phone, trying to figure out what outfit to wear. I don't think that I honestly would have a hard time getting the point that she gives a shit about whatever issue the old people in the house are working through, you know. But then again, you're probably right. I mean, I think that you know that how you communicate clearly is, and you're the expert on communication, so I acknowledge that for sure. You know, that the way you communicate is critically important to any relationship. So last point I'll make on this is, you know, and this is not me trying to give armchair quarterback advice to Steph Curry's parents. Dell Curry, by the way, was a great shooter for the Charlotte Hornets. He was a sharpshooter. He's a great player. Um, you know, I really think, at least anyway, I don't know. I don't have it all figured out, right? But I will say that when I was thinking about getting married, um, I wanted to marry a woman who wasn't just a good person. I wanted to marry a woman who fought who fought well, who would fight well. Meaning that if we did not make it, you know, if we didn't make it to the finish line, how's she gonna handle that? You know, because there's some people that can walk away with dignity and you know they don't want to look stupid, so they're gonna be professional and mature. And then there's some people who just act the ass, you know, and that person becomes almost like a terrorist, you know, because you're embarrassed and you're like, God, I don't want everybody to see us acting a fool, but they don't care, you know. So I would say to anybody who's thinking about getting married or be in a relationship, don't ever get in a relationship or even do business with people who love to act a fool and embarrass themselves, because then what happens is you're like you're taking the high road and they're out there, you know, lying and spreading false rumors and attacking you
Oh,
and
getting you back, getting you good.
yeah, yeah, and you're, you know, because like I think about like Martin Luther King, Stokely Carmichael, I believe, gave Martin Luther King a great compliment. He said all those years we were attacking him, dogging him out, calling him all kinds of names, and he never ever responded. He never called us a name back. And I said that's cool. That to me that's manhood right there. I didn't agree with Dr. King's whole marching and praying and philosophy.
Yeah.
Fortunately, he came around where he was talking about economics at the time. Yeah, that's why they killed him, I think.
Hmm.
But still, though, the fact that he was like, you know what, you all can own the territory of false manhood. I'm gonna claim the territory of what real manhood looks like, which means letting go of my ego and not trying to get into a back and forth with you because I'm trying to look good. Because that's why people end up attacking each other. Well, no, you didn't say that about me. How no, you the one who did the blah 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 blah, right? And to me, I learned my maturity journey was when I got to the point where I was like, boy, stop trying to make yourself look perfect.
Yeah, because you come off as defensive, and that's not necessary. You don't need to defend.
Right,
Just be
right.
you.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And I think and to me, I think that's my advice, like to young men especially, is like that's manhood. When you don't need to thump your chest to know that you're still a man. Like you can, you know, like you have the resiliency to achieve your goal, whatever that means, and put your ego to the side. Ego is for high ego to me. That whole like, oh, I'm not gonna let you talk to me like that and blah blah blah. I feel like all that is like a cover for deep insecurity.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. If you're in a relationship and your partner says something to you that hurts your feelings, I think you're well within your right to bring it to their attention in a way that's not nobody disrespect me. I mean, you don't have to talk like that. I mean, you could just
Mhm.
like really in a nice way, just say, talk about how you feel. I felt really hurt by what you said. That hurt
Yeah,
my
I get
feelings.
that.
And it made me think like, good grief, are you really committed? Are you
Mm,
committed in this relationship? Because you're walking around hurting my feelings and I don't like it. I mean,
mm.
all of us are well within our right to say that to another person if they're stepping all over your feelings. Nobody wants to be with somebody and they're all rude and mean. Nobody wants to be with a mean miser.
Yeah, that's true. I do.
We need to stop that. And that's not what you want to model to your children. To think that that's normal and that's okay. That's not okay.
Well, I think the number one thing is to, I think be in a relationship where you're gonna hear the other person and they're gonna hear you.
Yeah.
I think that goes a long way. Like people want to be heard, and when they're heard, they feel better, and I think that's a good goal to kind of aim for. But I would say that to conclude, I guess with Steph's parents, I kind of think I don't know. I just see stories like this all the time in the media. Oh, she cheated. No, he cheated. And then, so we got to, I don't know. I'm gonna tell you the truth. I don't cheating would not make me divorce you. It just wouldn't. It's like no. I mean, I just
Well, cheating
don't.
would make me divorce you.
I know. I
I'm
know.
just
I
letting
know.
you know.
I know that. I know that. I know that.
That wouldn't fly. I don't. That's not something I would agree to.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, that's you're right. But I was still tell you, because I feel like I don't know. I just really don't stuff like that. I'm not saying it doesn't bother me,
Hmm.
but I think that we are too obsessed with the sex in our marriages, and that's why marriages don't last. Because I think a marriage is something much greater than just
Yeah,
who you know who you who you,
faith,
who you happen to be having sex with.
faithfulness. Now, it all depends on how you decide you want to operate, have your marriage, and operate your marriage, and that's perfectly fine as long as two people are in a marriage and you agree to it. However people want to function and operate when it comes to intimacy in that way, sexual intimacy, that's a negotiated thing between two people. Clearly, with Steph Curry's parents, that's not something that both of them feel comfortable with, and so they're parting ways. And I wish them the best, and I hope that they turn things around and stop. I mean, they got grandchildren. They're almost 60 years old. They need to cut it out.
Yeah, you know what it
This is
is.
just
You,
not.
you know what? You know why? You know why? Uh, you know, Infidelity or whatever wouldn't necessarily be a trigger for me. Maybe if I was 25 or 30, it would be. But it's because I didn't get married because I wanted to own someone's vagina. Like if I wanted to own a woman's body, I could have done that because I already had money and fame and power, and there's plenty of women that would have let me own them. I didn't do that. I didn't get married to ownership over a person. I got married because I want to build legacy. I want to build a family. I want to build an empire. And I feel like marriage is something that you do if you are building an institution. I'm a believer in that, right? It doesn't mean it's the only way, but it's something I believe. And so I think family has a type of stability and I entered family knowing that what I want wasn't going to be the most important thing in the world. If I wanted to serve myself, I would have stayed single because I could think about it. I could sit at home and do whatever I want, eat whatever I want, see whoever I want, live whatever life I want, spend my money on myself. I got married because I wanted to serve other people. So I think leadership is service, and being the head of a family means you're serving other people. And I like that. I was ready for that. Again, and I think a lot of it might have been because I had a chance to already fulfill my ego. I've already had got a chance to thump my chest you know, and experience the things that men want. So that's probably why things like the infidelity don't bother me so much. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean I'd applaud it or that I want it to happen. It just means like, nah, you'd have to do some pretty horrible shit to make me say. In fact, I have literally, if somebody said, "What would it take for you to divorce Alicia?" I'd be like, I don't know.
Mm.
Seriously. So just I guess y'all just know if we ever get a divorce, she's gonna be the
It's gonna
one.
be because of
She's
me.
gonna be the one to initiate it, and that fits the trend, right?
It
What
does fit the
women are the
trend.
ones who are getting the divorces,
They tend to do
and
it,
I
yeah.
think and I really think that's something women have to think about because being out here
Hmm.
as a woman being single, that's tough too. That's very tough.
Hmm.
A lot of these dudes, they exploit these desperate single women, these desperate divorcee women. They exploit these women, So I don't know. I'm not here to tell anybody what to do. I would just say, think it through. Grass is always greener on the other side, but shit, sometimes you jumping in a mud puddle.
Well, you have to decide how you want to live your life. I mean, what is it that you want for yourself? You really do. You really do need to decide what is it that you want for your life because life is short. You have one life to live. Life is short. And so do you want to spend your life, the rest of your life, with somebody who's going to be treating you in a certain way where they're not even interested in meeting your needs? What is that going to be like for you if you have all pent up resentment and you start to grow to hate that person
Yeah.
because you put your trust in somebody and they end up being untrustworthy? Or if you agree to something and you feel like you're not working as a team with that person, or you feel like you've grown apart and you're two isolated individuals just being roommates in the household. Like, there's no love between the two of you. There's all sorts of reasons, and it's never an easy decision to end a relationship. And a lot of people, even when 100% this is not the person I want to be with, even at that point, you start to doubt yourself. You say, God, I don't know if I'm making the right decision. I mean, maybe this is just a bad patch and later on down the line we'll get better. It's not an easy decision to do.
Well, I'll say
And there's a
this.
lot of, one more thing I want to say, there's a lot of information out there on what to do to make your relationship better, but there's not a lot of information out there on what to do when you don't even know if you want to be in the relationship or not. I don't even know if I want to be in this. I don't know if I want to be in a relationship with
Then why
anybody.
call it a commitment? Why not just say, "Hey, we're gonna stay. We're gonna be together until we decide we want to break up."
Well,
So
that's
what?
the
What?
issue with
Right,
commitment,
right.
right?
So I think marriage. I think
Mm-hmm.
I two things that come to mind when you say that. One is, I think we all benefit if we study marriage, views of marriage from around the world. Americans, we think we know everything, and we don't. I think to understand marriage, I think you should look at the Asian culture, look at Latina culture, look at African culture from the many countries of Africa. Look at
Mm-hmm.
look at different southern, northern, just all that, and then
Mm-hmm.
try to come up with a montage and understand that there's different reasons that people get married around the world, and it's not always like because you're cute
Mm-hmm.
or because I love you or because I'm walking around feeling good every day,
Yeah.
right?
So
Or
third world, I think really what you're saying is that because I have had couples, I've had Hispanic couples, you know this. I have had white couples. I've had lots of black couples I work with. I've actually had some Asian couples that I've worked with, and I have seen some cultural differences. But I think a lot of what you're talking about is more in terms of socioeconomic status. So, like third world countries tend to have a totally different understanding of
well,
marriage
what
than
about rich families in third world countries?
well, rich families in third world countries. I don't want to make a blanket statement because they're different depending on where they live. But for the most part, I think there's a lot of things that are universal. So I mean, there's a lot of families that I work with where some of the issues that couples are facing, it's universal. And no matter where they came from or their background, they don't want to be abused. Like,
Right.
abuse is something that's harmful, and they can have PTSD from that. So yeah, so some of those things are universal, I found,
Right.
Bruce.
And yeah, I do agree.
Hmm.
I just kind of think, I don't think there's one way to view marriage, right?
Hmm.
And the way
Hmm.
my particular view of marriage had always been one that says it's more about service. It's more for other people. Like, think about it. I could have, when we got married, I could have easily done a simple ceremony where I just put a ring on your finger and said, "Okay, we're married. Let's sign the paperwork and we're done." You do the big wedding not just for yourself. You're doing it for the community. You're making a public vow, and it affects lots of other people and people because you're building an institution.
Hmm.
Like starting a university. A university doesn't exist for one person. It exists for all people who benefit from being connected to that institution, that brand, right? So I think overall, when I approach how I view marriage or whatever, I don't put my happiness at the top of the priority list. It's not even in the top five, really. My personal happiness, because again, if I wanted to be personally happy, I would probably just be a man living in some apartment in a liquor bottle every day with, doing whatever guys do when they just, can do whatever they want. Right. But there's times where I say that I understand I have a community responsibility, which is okay,
Well,
boys.
you're not married to the community. You're married to me.
Well, when I say
Who are you
community,
talking about?
the family is a community. You and the
Hmm.
spouse and the children. So there's times where a man, then this is maturity, right? A little boy does what he wants whenever he wants. A man says, I can't do that because I got to do this for these other people. I got to put this pour into the children or whatever. So I just kind of think that people should think it through and get do their research and I don't know. I think that I think that part of the reason a lot of marriages don't last is because they focus on all lower vibrational stuff. How cute are you? How happy am I? And how is the sex good? Did you cheat on me? Da, da, da. And I'm not saying those things aren't important. They could be important to people.
But some of those things are really important because it can create a toxic environment, and it can, not only that, but it can cause physical harm.
Well,
It
it
all
can.
depends. A
Well,
marriage is a
there's
negotiated thing.
nothing more sexually dangerous than to be single and fucking different people every year.
Not really.
Like
You
to
don't have to.
no, but I mean, I'm saying like that whole argument about like, well, cheating could put me in physical harm. No, I mean, I knew a couple where they had an infidelity issue, and I think the husband would cheat once every 3 years, and the wife cheated once or something. And but I know people who are single who have sex with a new person every month or every
Oh.
6 months
But
or
that
every
doesn't mean, just
right.
because you're single doesn't mean that that's what
It
happens.
does right. It doesn't mean it's what's
Yeah.
happened, but it means you're free. You're free to do whatever you want. And I know a lot of people who have long strings of 6 month, 9 month relationships where you meet a new person and you don't know anything about their sexual history because they've been out there single and mingling and whatever. Especially if you're dating a guy who has a lot of options and a lot of women are chasing him. He's probably having a lot of sex. He's probably getting in with a lot of women. At least with a married man, you know, even the married men I know who have done things they shouldn't do, they're not doing it all the time, everywhere with everybody, because they've got a barrier. They've got something where they're like, okay, my wife is over here, and I don't want to mess up my family. So so I personally think, at the end of the day, I think that it's about sort of looking at the world for what it really is and not getting caught up in anybody's fantasy. That's it. Whatever that is. Like I think a masculine fantasy of thinking I can just do whatever I want and I'm always the boss and that being the man means that being the head of everything. I think that's kind of silly. And I think that the female fantasy of, like if I'm not happy for a certain amount of time, I should just divorce and my life will be better and I'm better off being single. I know a lot of women who leave a good man so they can get a string of really bad men and then they're miserable, but they don't want to admit it because they don't want to have people think that they're not some strong black woman who don't need no man. I'll let you get the last word.
Yeah, I think to each its own. You got to define how you want your marriage to be. And you let that be. And there's nobody outside that can judge it. As long as you're kind to each other and you're respectful of each other, then that's fine. You can do whatever you want.
Good point.
Hmm.
All right, everybody. We're about to go to bed. So hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe button. You can follow Dr. Alicia at coachingwithdralicia.com. Also, you can follow on Instagram at coaching with Dr. Alicia. So you guys have a good night, and don't ask us why we're up, at 3 something in the morning or 4 something in the morning. It's just kind of what we do. So anyway, we love you and have a good night, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care. Peace.